Hi, parents. Welcome to the Parents Guide, helping your teen overcome pornography addiction, the podcast where we tackle this tough topic with practical solutions to help your teen thrive. I am your host, Matt Bulkley, and today we're diving into what we refer to as parent-led intervention. If you're a parent worried about your teen's pornography use and want to guide them toward healthier habits, then you're in the right place. We're going to explore a parent-led approach using what we call the Recovery Toolbox for Teens, which includes the Breaking Free Curriculum Teen version, the Parent Guide Breaking Free workbook, and the 101 Tips for Quitting Porn workbook. This isn't about professional counseling or clergy-led intervention. It's about you as the parent taking the lead to help your teen build resilience and to make better choices. But a quick heads up, this approach only works if you have a solid relationship with your teen, where they're open to your guidance and are willing to participate and engage in discussions, and you as the parent are willing and comfortable with taking the lead on this. If that's not the case, then you might need to consider professional support. And we'll touch on that in future episodes. But a quick preview on that, I like to think of 3 levels of intervention for problematic pornography use among teens based on the circumstances, with parent-led intervention being the first level and, of course, the least intense and structured. And as the needs become more complex and require greater structure and therapy, then the next level up moves into what we refer to as outpatient support, which includes working with a professional therapist in individual therapy, family therapy, and recovery group settings. And then the highest level of intervention would be residential treatment, out-of-home placement, such as our Star Guides program. But stick with me as we walk through how the Recovery Toolbox curriculum works, why it's effective, and how you can start using it at home. Plus, we'll answer some common questions that parents have about setting this up. Let's get started. Let's start with the reality. Pornography is everywhere with smartphones, tablets, gaming devices, smart TVs, desktop computers, laptop computers, and even, believe it or not, smartwatches. I countered a case a week ago where the teen was accessing pornography using a smartwatch. And it's more accessible than ever before, and teens are particularly vulnerable because of their developing brains and their decision-making. And if your teen has a smartphone, chances are that they've come across pornography, and probably more often than you'd like to think. And this isn't just about curiosity. Regular exposure can have serious effects, can affect their mental health, their brain development, their self-confidence, distort their understanding of relationships, stall their emotional growth, develops into maladaptive forms of coping and patterns of addictive behaviors, and it often moves into a pattern of secrecy, lying, deceit, covering tracks, which in some cases turns into living a double life. Over the past 25 years as a therapist, I've talked to many parents who have noticed their teens becoming secretive, maybe lying or sneaking around to hide their habits, which damages trust and ruins relationships. And that can be just as damaging to their development. And it's heartbreaking. But here's the good news. You as a parent can make a real difference. You don't need to be a therapist or a tech expert to help your teen. And the Recovery Toolbox is designed specifically for parents like you to guide your teen toward healthier choices. So what does parent-led intervention mean? It means that you're the one steering the ship. It's not a professional therapist leading your teen through this curriculum with weekly discussions. It's you. And it includes workbook exercises, open conversations, and important dialogue. And it's about being proactive, addressing the issues before it spirals into a bigger problem. And the best part, you can do this at home. Tailor it to your family's values without needing to seek out professional intervention right away. Think of it like teaching your teen to drive. You don't just hand them the keys and hope for the best. You guide them, you set rules, you practice driving together. And the Recovery Toolbox is like that roadmap, helping you to navigate this tricky terrain with confidence. So let's dive into what the Recovery Toolbox curriculum actually is. Picture this comprehensive, user-friendly program that gives you all the tools that you need to help your teen. It's not just workbooks. It's a complete system designed to fit into your busy life as a parent. Here's what you get. First, there are the educational modules, or what we refer to as the curriculum. And these are the compilation of what we have researched and found to be the most important concepts that need to be understood and applied to build a recovery. It includes the latest research in addiction cycle, the neuroscience of how pornography affects the brain, the direct connection between mismanagement of negative emotions and the use of pornography as an escape from the pain, the use of self-deceit and what we refer to as thinking errors that lead to justifying continued viewing, strong emphasis on the value of connection and the formation of healthy relationships, the development of effective coping skills, and then ultimately it's about implementing lifestyle changes and healthy habits that lead to a life so fulfilling that the short-term pleasure that porn provides is no longer compelling, loses its appeal. And these concepts are presented and written in a way that's clear for teens to understand, but they also give you, the parent, insight into what's going on in your teen's mind. For example, the concept 3 delves into the neuroscience, including how dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, norepinephrine, the neurochemicals drive the addictive process, which helps your teen to understand what is occurring in their brain and the science behind the formation of these habits. It also includes the introduction of many practical skills, includes multiple exercises that build skills like improving self-awareness, strengthening emotional regulation, and critical thinking skills. And these aren't just for your teen. You as the parent will be doing some of these exercises too, which helps you to model the behaviors that you want to see in your teen. And then there are the communication strategies. Talking about pornography can feel awkward, and the curriculum gives you tips to approach these conversations without shame or judgment. It's about creating a safe space where your teen can feel comfortable opening up, even if they slip or relapse. And there's the boundary setting framework, and this includes ideas for managing technology, including creating a family media plan. Think screen time limits, content filters, device-free hours. The goal is to set clear rules while involving your teen in the process so they feel empowered and not controlled. What I love about the Recovery Toolbox is how flexible it is. Whether you're starting from scratch at home with a parent-led intervention, or whether your teen is using it alongside support from a therapist or clergy, or even in our most intensive intervention at Star Guides, we use the curriculum and we adapt it to the teen's needs and according to the family's values. And it really is just what the name says it is. It's like a toolbox. You pick the tools that work best for you. Let me give you an example. I was talking to a mom, I'll call her Sarah, who used the Breaking Free workbook and the 101 tips with her 15-year-old son. And she was nervous at first. She didn't know how to bring up the topic of pornography without it feeling like a lecture. But with the curriculum, gave her scripts and ideas for starting those tough conversations. And by the end of the first month, about 4 sessions in, her son was actually opening up about his struggles. And that's the kind of progress that this program can spark. Now let's get practical and cover the details of a parent-led approach. How do you actually bring the Recovery Toolbox curriculum, the Breaking Free workbooks, the 101 tips for quitting porn workbook into your home and into your dialogue with your teen? The beauty of it is that it is literally a step-by-step or concept-by-concept approach, so you don't have to figure it out on your own. Here's how it works. The curriculum is built around weekly sessions where you and your teen work through the material together. Each week, you'll focus on one concept from the Breaking Free workbook. The teen workbook matches the parent workbook, so you'll cover the same concepts. And this keeps you both on the same page, literally. For most teens, concept takes about 30 minutes to read, study, and answer the reflection questions at the end of the chapter. And then you'll sit down together and discuss what you've both learned because you've studied the same thing, only from the parent workbook. To make it real simple, here's a 3-step plan to make that happen. So step 1, as parent, that you model healthy behavior. And this is huge. Your teen's watching you. So show them what responsible media use looks like. For example, instead of scrolling your phone all evening, because they'll notice, try setting your own screen time limits and talk openly about why you're doing it. Maybe say, I'm cutting back on my phone use at night so I can be more present. And along with that, pick a day and time each week for this to happen and to stick with it. It probably seems like a small thing, but it sets the tone. And then using the Breaking Free Parent Guide, sitting in the same room with your teen, you read and study the concept and complete the reflection questions and ask your teen to do the same. And when they've completed their reading and reflection questions, then you ask them to share. Step 2, along with that, is creating a non-judgmental environment. This is about building trust. When you talk about pornography, approach it with empathy, not anger. Let your teen know that they can share without the fear of consequence or punishment. And the workbook discussions are a great way to practice this. For example, one of the reflection questions asks your teen how they feel when they're tempted to view pornography. And when they share their answer, listen actively. Don't jump in with solutions. Just say something like, I'm really glad that you shared that. Can you tell me more? And then finally, step 3 is to collaborate with your teen. Involve them in setting boundaries, like deciding when devices are off limits or when to install content filters. This gives them some sense of ownership. For instance, you might say, let's figure out a plan for screen time that works for all of us. And maybe you agree that phones go in a basket at 9 p.m. in the evening. When the teen feels like they're part of the decision making, they're more likely to stick to the plan. And to make this even more actionable, the recovery toolbox, it also includes the workbook, 101 tips for quitting porn. And this workbook is exactly just that. It's literally 101 tips, something that I've wanted to put together for a number of years now. And I've been collecting some of these ideas and tips over the years, but finally got around to putting it into an actionable workbook this year. And it provides practical, easy to implement ideas for getting past that impulse or urge to view pornography. Here's how it works. At the end of each weekly session, ask your teen to pick 5 tips from the workbook that they want to try that week. For example, one tip might be replace screen time with a hobby. And then write down how they plan to do that. For example, maybe spend 20 minutes drawing instead of scrolling on their phone. And then in the next session, you follow up and check in and you ask, well, how did that tip work for you? And what was tough about it? Here's a quick story to bring this to life. I heard from a dad, I'll call him Mike, who started using the curriculum with his 16-year-old son. At first, his son was fairly resistant and thought it would end up being a series of lectures from his dad, but Mike followed the curriculum's advice. He kept the weekly sessions short, right in the 45-minute range, once per week. He made it a point to do the parent workbook himself and showed his son that he was in it with him. And by about the 3rd week, his son was actually looking forward to their check-ins because he felt like it was a safe place to talk. And that's the power of 2 qualities here, consistency and empathy. So why is the recovery toolbox so effective? Let's break this down. First, it's about early intervention. The sooner you address pornography use, the better the outcome. By tackling this before it becomes a full-blown ingrained addiction, you're setting your teen up for success, long-term success. The curriculum helps them to understand the risk and damage, like how pornography can rewire the brain, the neural pathways, or how it can skew their expectations about relationships and sex, or how it stagnates their emotional development. And this all happens, you disrupt it before these patterns take hold. Secondly, it builds stronger family bonds. Working through the curriculum together isn't just about addressing pornography. It's about learning to talk about tough topics. You're building trust and collaboration, which carries over into other areas of your relationship as well. I've heard from parents who say that the sessions have opened up conversations with their teen that they never thought that they would have. And third, it's about empowerment through education. It's the curriculum doesn't just tell your teen what not to do. It teaches them why and how to make better choices. Both you and your teen learn about the neuroscience behind pornography's impact, which helps to demystify it, and it makes it less intimidating to discuss. It's like giving your teen a map to navigate their choices. They're not just following rules, they're understanding why those rules matter. And here's the bigger picture. By creating a supportive, structured environment, you're not just addressing pornography, you're helping your teen develop life skills, increase self-discipline, stronger capacity for critical thinking, and emotional resilience, all of which will serve them well in the future, well beyond this issue. It's like planting seeds for long-term well-being, and that's what makes it so powerful. Let me share another quick example. A parent who called Shelly had told me that her 14-year-old son was struggling with some deceptive, sneaky behaviors to hide his pornography use. And using the recovery toolbox, they started having the weekly sessions and the weekly check-ins where they discussed triggers and strategies openly. And over time, her son not only reduced his pornography use, but he also became more honest about other challenges in his life. And that's the kind of ripple effect that this approach can have. Now let's dive into some common questions that parents have about setting up a parent-led intervention at home. I'll walk you through how to structure this process to make it effective and sustainable. The goal is to create a consistent, private, and non-judgmental environment for honest, productive conversations with your teen. Here's how you can do it. And the first question is, well, how do I set up a consistent routine for this intervention? Start by scheduling a weekly session. For example, say every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. And keep it manageable. 30 to 60 minutes is plenty of time, so it's not overwhelming for your teen. But treat this time like a non-negotiable appointment to show your commitment. It's as if you have an appointment in an office and you stick to it. You don't skip weeks. Don't get out of the habit until you've worked through the entire curriculum, all 10 concepts. In some cases, it may take more than 1 week on that concept. Pick a quiet, distraction-free spot in your home, maybe a home office, cozy corner of the living room or your teen's bedroom. Make sure it's private. It's probably best that no siblings are around to interrupt or to make your teen feel self-conscious. Turn off phones and TVs. Keep the focus on the conversation. Make it a technology-free zone for both you and your teen. Next question, how do we use the Breaking Free curriculum effectively? Well, each week you assign your teen one chapter from the Breaking Free Teen Workbook, and they'll spend about 30 minutes reading, studying, and answering the reflection questions. And you'll do the same with the corresponding chapter in the Breaking Free Parent Guide workbook. This keeps you both aligned, covering the same concepts at the same pace. And during your weekly session, invite your teen to share their answers and listen actively. Don't jump in with fixes. Ask gentle questions like, well, what stood out to you about this concept? Or how did that question make you feel? This builds trust. It encourages reflection. And then to add the practical layer to it all, you use the 101 Tips for Quitting Porn workbook. At the end of each session, ask your teen to pick maybe 5 tips that they'll try during that week. Things like avoiding screens before bed or journaling about triggers, and have them jot down what they'll apply or how they'll apply those tips. And then in the next week, the following session, check in, ask, well, which tips worked and what was tough? And this just keeps the momentum going. So another question, how do I handle relapses or setbacks? Well, relapses are normal as much as we want recovery to go quick and without flaws. Relapses are normal. Don't treat them as failures. Use the relapse tracking charts in the curriculum to discuss triggers in a safe, non-judgmental way. There's a relapse tracker in the Breaking Free Teen workbook. And it uses a daily color code method wherein red equals relapse, yellow equals struggling with impulse or urge, and green equals a good day, I'm managing well. And ask your teen to analyze and record their efforts daily and then to report how the week has gone for them. And as you process with them, say something like, well, what did you learn from this? Or what could help next time? Rather than casting judgment or imposing consequences for relapse. Celebrate the small wins as well, like when your teen opens up or they stick to a boundary or they have a good attitude about participation. Acknowledging their efforts will help build confidence. Another question that comes up is, well, how long does this take and how do I stay consistent? So as I'd mentioned, the curriculum typically takes in the range of 3 months to complete if you stick with one concept per week, and consistency really is the key. Think of it like building a muscle. The growth doesn't happen after just going to the gym one time. You have to do it consistently and realize that the results take time. And if there's a week that feels tough for your teen, then pause and review the past material or just keep talking about their feelings. You don't have to keep up with a one concept per week pace if it needs to move slower. Remember, change takes time. So your job is to stay steady, listen actively, keep this space safe. Here's a tip, what I call a pro tip from a parent that I recently spoke with who said, make the sessions feel special. One dad started bringing a favorite snack to the weekly sessions, which turned into a bonding ritual. And it's little touches like that that really can make a big difference. Parents, you have the power to guide your teen toward a healthier, more resilient future. And the Recovery Toolbox is your roadmap, helping you to foster open communication, set clear boundaries, and empower your teen with the knowledge, skills, and confidence to overcome their pornography problem. Are you ready to take the first step? Head to our website, therapyassociates.com, and click on the bookstore link at the top of the page. And this takes you into the bookstore where you can purchase the Recovery Toolbox for Teens, which includes 3 workbooks: the Breaking Free Workbook for Teens, the Breaking Free Parent Guide, and the 101 Tips for Quitting Porn. And don't confuse this with the adult version. There's an adult version for adults who are working towards recovery for pornography, but you want the teen version. It's the blue version. The adult version is the brown version. It's everything you need to get started. Yeah, keep in mind, I'm always happy to consult and touch base with you as you jump into this process. And feel free to email, text, call. Love to hear how things are going and how I can help you in that process, and love to hear about your successes. So keep me updated. For more tips on helping your teen to overcome pornography addiction, subscribe to this podcast, share this episode with other parents who might need it, and check out our YouTube channel. Check out the Parent Library, which is in the blog page on the website, where you can find more than 130 tips and articles on helping teens overcome pornography addiction. Let's work together to help our teens thrive. Until next time, keep those lines of communication open, and we'll see you in the next episode where we will jump in to the next level of intervention, which is the outpatient support.